So here is mock quiz number 1, solution manual. So for 1A, we're going to look at function composition. Alright, so first we have to find f of g of x. So first you're going to write f of g of x. Now always start from the inside out. So we have g of x, so now locate g of x up here. And notice g of x is equal to 3x minus 1. So now we are going to substitute f of 3x minus 1. Okay, now notice how we have f of 3x minus 1. So that means we need to go to the f of x function and notice that we have to input 3x minus 1 in for our x's in the f of x function. So we are going to have 2 times 3x minus 1 to the second power minus 1. Okay, so you guys, when you do 3x minus 1 to the second power, what you're really doing is multiplying 3x minus 1 twice. And this is how you guys multiply. So you distribute 3x minus 3x to both. And then you guys distribute -1 to both. So what you guys really should have is 3x times 3x for 9x squared. 3x times -1 for -3x. -1 times 3x for -3x, and -1 times -1 for +1. And that's going to equal 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. So we're going to be back over in our equation. So this is going to equal 2 times, and what we just found above, 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. And don't forget, you're still subtracting by 1. Alright, now we get to distribute this 2 to each one of these terms. 2 times 9x squared is 18x squared. 2 times -6, -12x. 2 times 1 is 2, and don't forget your minus 1. And your guys' final answer should be 18x squared minus 12x plus 1. And there's your final answer for 1A. Now let's take a look at 1B. Alright, so we're going to rewrite find f of g of 2 to look like f of g of 2. So, remember, start from the inside going out. I see that we have this g of 2. So, let's find out what g of 2 is. So, I'm going to go to my g function up here, g of 2. Alright, so now we're going to substitute 2 in for our g function. So 2 times 2 minus 2, 4 minus 2, which is 2. So now I know g of 2 is 2. So back to this function, f of g of 2, which we just solved for, which is 2. Now we go to our f function. So here's our f of x function, and now we're going to substitute 2 in for our x. So we're going to have f of 2 is equal to 2 times 2 to the second power plus 2 plus 4. That's going to equal to 8 plus 2 plus 4, and that's going to equal to 14. Alright, so f of 2 is 14, and I really should have written that down here, but I'm just going to rewrite it for us. So your guys' final answer should have just been 14. Okay, so that's 1A and 1B. Alright, so now here we have long division. Alright, so the denominator will go on the outside, 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. And on the inside of the house, we have our numerator, 3x to the fourth minus 11x third minus x squared plus 19x plus 6. Alright, so here's the process, right? 3x to the second times what will give us 3x to the fourth? Well, 3x squared times x squared will give us 3x to the fourth. So 3x squared times x squared will give us 3x to the fourth. Now, once I'm done asking myself that question, once you get this one on the top, you distribute this to each and every single one of these. And you guys remember, when you're multiplying same bases together, that means you add your exponents. Let me repeat. When you're multiplying, then that means you guys will add your exponents if they have the same base. So 3x squared times 3x squared, that is 3x to the fourth. X squared times negative 5x is negative 5x to the third. And x squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Alright, so now we're going to subtract the top from the bottom. So then we're going to have 3x to the fourth, which is just canceled. Alright, remember, negative 11x third minus negative 5x to the third, that will make this a plus. So we're going to have negative 6x to the third. Remember to distribute this negative to every single one on the inside. Okay, and then the next one, negative x squared minus negative 2x squared, which is really negative x squared, plus 2x squared. So we're going to get positive x squared. Bring down. And now we start the whole process again. 3x squared times what will give you negative 6x to the third? Well, 3 times negative 2 will give you negative 6, and then x squared times x will give you x to the third. So negative 2x. Now, remember, with this one, we're going to distribute now to all of these. So negative 2x times negative 2x times 3x squared is negative 6x to the third. Negative 2x times negative 5x is plus 10x squared. And negative 2x times negative 2 is plus 4x. And we're going to subtract this whole line from that one. So these cancel because we're subtracting. Okay, x squared minus 10x squared is going to be negative 9x squared. 19x minus 4x is going to be plus 15x. Okay, we drop. Alright, last one. 3x squared times what will give you negative 9x squared? Well, 3x squared times negative 3 will give you negative 9x squared. So negative 3, and now remember, you gotta distribute this to each one. So negative 3 times 9x squared is negative 9x squared. Negative 3 times negative 15x is positive 15x, and negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Subtract, and that will give you 0. So yay, we got a remainder of 0, so that means your guys' final answer is x squared minus 2x minus 3. And there's the first one for long division. Now let's go to 2b. Okay, so do you guys notice how we have x to the third power, x squared, x to the second power, but we do not have an x to the first power? we don't have x to the first power. And on the bottom, we're also missing x to the first power. So when you guys are doing long division, so that everything lines up perfectly, you have to put a placeholder. So we have to insert x to the first power by having it have a coefficient of 0. So x squared, remember the denominator is on the outside, but I want to insert a variable of x to the first power. So I'm going to insert 0x minus 1. Okay, now on the inside we're going to have 2x to the third minus x squared plus a 0x to just serve as a placeholder, so that I know everything will line up when we do our division. So x squared times what will give us 2x to the third? Well, x squared times 2x will give us 2x to the third. So 2x. Now we're going to distribute this one to each and every single one of these. 2x times x squared, 2x to the third, 2x times 0x squared. I'm just going to put 0x to the second, and 2x times negative 1, negative 2x. So subtract. That cancels. Negative x squared minus a 0 is just negative x squared. 0x plus 2x, remember we gotta distribute this negative to each one. So 0x, whoops. This always seems to happen with my iPad for some reason. It just magically wants to disconnect. Hold on, hold on. There we go. 1369. Okay. Alright, sorry about that, you guys. So, where were we? Oh yes, we are subtracting. So negative x squared minus 0x squared, that's negative x squared, good. Alright, 0x plus 2x, which is plus 2x. And then we're going to drop our last one. Okay, now start this over again. X squared times what will give you negative x squared? Well, x squared times negative 1 will give you negative x squared. So negative 1. So remember, negative 1, distribute to each one of these. Negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times 0x is just pretty much 0x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1. So then we subtract. And we should have gotten negative 2x. And sorry, I forgot that's really a 10. I did not put a 10 in the problem. So it's really 10 minus 1, so then we're going to get 2x plus 9. Whoopsies. Alright, so we have a remainder, which means now we can put in our answer. So remember what we got on the top, 2x minus 1. And then now, when you guys get a remainder, 2x plus 9 over what we're dividing by. And in this problem, you guys, we're dividing by x squared minus 1. So x squared minus 1. Okay, so that's your guys' answer for 2b. Alright, for number 3. Now, when we work on number 3, right, I told you guys to annotate your word problem so that you guys know what you're trying to do. So, how many seconds? That tells you, right, you're looking for time. So that means you're solving for t. Now, when Justin hits the water, that is going to be it's going to be a height of 0. Since the water is at ground level is considered the height being equal to 0. So since water and ground level are pretty much the same, the height's going to equal to 0. And this is what we need in order to solve for our equation. So let me just rewrite the equation. h of t is equal to negative 16t squared plus 16t plus 480. Now, we know our height's 0, negative 16t squared plus 16t plus 480. Now, I'm noticing that each one of these terms can be divisible by negative 16. And I'm dividing by negative 16 because I don't really like my leading coefficient to be a negative sign. So, 0 is equal to negative 16 t squared. Negative 16 times negative 16 is 1. 16 divided by negative 16 is negative t. And 480 divided by negative 16, you guys, is negative 30. So you won't have your calculator on your guys' quiz, but remember, 480 divided by 16. 16 times 3 is 48, 0, 0, 16 goes into 0, 0. So that's how we got 30. Okay, trinomial, which means we guys could do the x method to factor negative 30, negative 1. Two things that multiply to negative 30, but when added gives you guys negative 1. That is negative 6 and 5. So now when we factor that, we're going to get t minus 6 and t plus 5. From there and from right there. Now when you guys solve for your zeros, right, it's going to be the opposite of these two numbers right there. So that means t is going to equal 6 or negative 5. Why does this keep on happening? I gotta figure out why it always just decides to disconnect. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi, who knows? And it always decides to shift it over. Okay, so t is equal to 6 or t is equal to negative 5. Well, you know you're going to take this one because you can't have negative seconds. So Justin will hit the water in 6 seconds. And that's your guys' final answer. Alright, so there's that. Now we're going to do part B. Now, notice in part B, right, it says, what was his maximum height reached? Whenever you guys hear like maximum height or like minimum height, that should always make you guys think of the vertex, which is t is equal to negative b over 2a. So now we're going to solve for the vertex by using that formula. So t is equal to negative b over 2a. Now when you guys look at your formula, this is your a, this is your b, and that's your c. So we are going to have negative 16 all over 2 times negative 16. Negative 16 over negative 32, which simplifies to 1/2. Now, to find our maximum height, we just substitute into our equation. So I'll write out the equation for us again. Now we're going to substitute 1/2 in for t. So h of 1/2 is equal to negative 16 times 1/2 squared plus 16 times 1/2 plus 480. Negative 16, 1/2 squared, you guys, is just 1/4. 16 times 1/2 is 8. And plus 480. 1/4 of negative 16, you guys, is negative 16 divided by 4, which is negative 4, plus 8, plus 480. And that, you guys, is 484 feet. So Justin will reach a maximum height of 484 feet. And there is problem 3 done. Okay. Moving on to 4. Alright, notice this is in factored form, right? It's in factored form, so let's find our degrees first. Degree of 1, 1, 2, and 3, which means we have degree 7. And notice we have a negative sign, right? So when you guys find your end behavior, it's going to be negative x to the 7th power. And if it's negative and odd power, that means you are going to be having an up-down. So if you guys forgot about your up-down and all that stuff, then here's this. Positive even will be up, up. Negative even will be down, down. If it's positive odd, that's down, up. And if it's positive even, or sorry, negative odd, it would be up, down. This is something that you guys just have to memorize. You just have to look at your notes and just memorize that. Okay, so since we found our end behaviors, well, since we have found this end behavior, let's do this one right here. So as x is going to infinity, right? So as x is going to infinity, which is going to the right, f of x, which is our y, is going down. And since it's going down, that means we're going to have negative infinity. Okay? Now look at here. As x is going to negative infinity, which means as x is approaching to the left, f of x is approaching, well, for this left arrow, it's approaching up. So that means it's approaching infinity. Now to find our y-intercept, to find your guys' y-intercept, that's when x is equal to 0. So, using our equation from above, g of 0 is equal to negative 0 times 0 plus 1 times 0 minus 5 to the second times 0 plus 3 to the third, which equals negative 0 times 1 times negative 5 squared times 3 to the third. But notice, you guys, you're multiplying by 0 to all of them. So basically, this whole thing's just going to equal to 0. So our y-intercept is 0, 0. And now we just have to find our roots. So here's this one. That 0 is going to be x is equal to 0. This arrow right here, that's going to be when x is equal to negative 1. Right here, x is equal to 5, but it's going to be a multiplicity of 2, because since the power is 2. And right here, you guys, x is going to equal to negative 3, and its multiplicity of 3, since the degree is 3. Now remember, if it's multiplicity of 1, like our x is equal to 0 and our x is equal to -1, this is going to cross at those zeros. Multiplicity of 2, this is going to bounce at the 0, and multiplicity of 3, which means you're going to slide. Alright, so we have all the ingredients to graph this. So up, down, plotting my points at x is equal to 0, plotting my points at x is equal to -1, x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and x is equal to -3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this first 0, right, x is equal to -3, that's when it's going to slide. So, whoops, it's going to slide right there. So, at that 0, it's going to slide. At the next 0, x is equal to -1, it's going to cross. So, over here, we're going to cross. At x equal to 0, we cross again, so cross. And then at x is equal to 5, which is this one, it's going to bounce. So this one, you guys, bounce off the 0. And there's your guys' answer. So that's question number 4. Okay, up here. Now, this is going to be in standard form. So we can get our end behaviors and our y-intercepts from just looking at it in standard form. So when you guys look at standard form, you look at the first, your leading coefficient and your highest degree, and it's going to be 4. And I noticed it's positive, so that means it's going to be a positive x to the 4th, which means it's going to go up and up. Now, when I take a look at the y-intercepts, right, I notice that I just have to substitute 0 in for my y. So my y-intercept, that's when x is equal to 0. So f of 0 is equal to 0 to the 4th minus 3 times 0 to the 3rd plus 4 times 0, which is essentially just 0. So this y-intercept is 0, 0. And then my end behavior, right? As x goes to infinity, f of x is going up. So that means f of x is going to positive infinity. As x is going to negative infinity, which is to the left, my left arrow is pointing up, which means it's going to positive infinity. All right. Now we have to find our roots and our multiplicities. Now, you guys take a look at this. It has the 4th power, it has the 3rd power, and it has the 1 power, but you're missing the x squared power, which means that we need to insert an x to the 2nd power. But before we do that, I'm noticing in my function, you guys could factor out an x from each term. So x add a x to the 3rd minus 3x squared plus 4. And then I'm missing a degree of 1 here. So x times x to the 3rd minus 3x squared, I'm just going to put a placeholder. So you need to put a placeholder because once you guys do synthetic division, you need that coefficient of 0 in order to do your synthetic division. Alright, so let's find your guys' P's and Q's. I'll just do it up here. Or I'll just do it down here. Alright, there's my P. There's my Q. Remember, that's the coefficient of the leading P factors. are plus or minus 1 and 4, or plus or minus 2, and my q factors are plus or minus q. And now when you guys do p over q, you're going to get plus or minus 1, 2, and 4 all over plus or minus 1. And basically, you guys, all of 1, 2, and 4 all divided by 1 is just 1, 2, and 4. So remember, these are all my possible roots. So those are all my possible roots. Now, we need to guess and check and find our roots from our possible roots list. So, synthetic division, 1, -3, 0, and 4. Let's check out -1. So 1 times -1, -1, add -4. -4 times -1 is 4, add, you get 4, and 4 times -1 is -4, add, you get 0. So there's our first root, and I see that we have a trinomial, so now we can put it into polynomial form. So don't forget this x that we factored out in the beginning. So x, when you guys use this one, remember it becomes the opposite. So x plus 1, and then our trinomial. Now I've seen some students do this. When you guys get to 3 coefficients right here, I've seen students just do this so that they remind themselves to just insert that in. Okay, so what a very tough video. Technology, you guys gotta love it. I'm gonna research why it disconnects like that. Alright, we are back up for the, what is that, the 3rd time now in this video? Okay, as I was saying, trinomial, right? So now we gotta put that in polynomial form. So x squared minus 4x plus 4. Also too, right? Constant, first degree, second degree. I've also told you guys that as well. Alright, now factor this trinomial. So 4 up top, -4 on the bottom. -2 times -2 will give you 4, but when added gives you -4. So rewriting this, and then this part's going to be just these two, x minus 2 and x minus 2. So we got into factored form. Now let's get it into finding our zeros or our roots. So for this one, x is equal to 0, and if you guys want to, just write multiplicity of 1, since I only see 1 0 of that type. X is equal to -1, multiplicity of 1. And for this one and this one, notice they're the same. So x is going to equal to 2, multiplicity of 2. Now again, this is something you guys just have to memorize. If it is multiplicity of 1, it will cross at that 0. And if it's multiplicity of 2, it's going to bounce at that 0. Okay, so we have that information. So let's bring it back up here where it says to bring that information to the forefront. And now we have everything we need in order to graph. So let me use red because it's more profound. So you know it's going to be up, up. X equals 0 is right there. Gonna plot that. X equals -1. Gonna plot that. And at x equals 2, going to plot that. Okay, so at x is equal to -1. That's a cross. So I'm going to cross at that 0. At x equals 0, I'm going to cross. So at x equals 0, I'm going to cross it. And then at x equals 2, I'm going to bounce off that 0. Bounce. There we go. There's our graph for that one. Alright, sorry for the technological issues we had there, you guys, but hopefully that helps you with how to do mock quiz number 1, and the next video will be mock quiz number 2.